Shabbat Shalom. It's good to be here this morning. I'm going to adjust this down. I'm ready for my close-up. So Shabbat Shalom. It is good to be here this morning. Thankful for another Sabbath, another day of rest. Yah is just so good to us. He's brought us through another week and just given us, commanded us to rest on a day, set apart this day and to focus on Him. So we're very thankful for this day. If you would, go ahead and stand and turn to Psalms 37. Psalm 37. And we just want to read two verses from this, Psalms 37. Yep. And verse 23. So, the steps of a man are ordered by Yah, and he delights in his way. Though he falls, he is not cast down, for Yah is supporting his hand. So let's lift up our eyes. Yah, thank you for this day. You are just so good to us, Yah. We just want to address you this morning, Almighty, gracious, merciful. There's none like you, compassionate, but also one of judgment, Yah. You understand and you discipline your people according to your will, that we might learn from you, Yah, for you know all. May we just always be humbled before you, understanding that even the darkest of times, Yah, those are light to you, as it speaks of in the Psalms. Just so thankful. Give us a clear mind this morning to think upon your word, to teach your word, to give understanding to your people. Not only that we would be wise, but we would also understand enough to be able to apply your word to our lives and to be pleasing in your sight, Yah. You're just so good to us. We lift you up on high. There is no one beside you. No one is your equal. Baruch Hashem. Hallelujah. Amen. So there's a reason we wanted to just start here this morning in Psalms 37 and verse 23. I think we've all heard this verse before. The steps of a man are ordered by Yah, and he delights in his way. Though he falls, he is not cast down, for Yah supporting his hand. The basics of what is read here is everybody makes mistakes. We talk about that often. We were made fallible. We talked about that last week, that we have the ability to make mistakes. Nobody is perfect. We were not created to be perfect. And you even think about that in Adam. All things were made good, but just because they were good, did he create Adam perfectly? And even if you think about Christianity, that they will tell you that Adam was made perfect before Yah. But if you think about that, if he was made perfect, how did he have the ability to make a mistake? So, I didn't even think about that until just right now. So, but anyway, Adam was made with choice. Adam was made with the ability to choose and to make a mistake. That's just how we were created. That's how we were made. So even though he falls, he will not be cast down. But the verse we want to get into is 23. The steps of a man are ordered by Yah, and he delights in his way. If you read the King James Version, it says the steps of a good man are ordered by Yah. The ULT says it is by Yahweh that a man's steps are established. The man whose way is commendable in God's sight. I do like the easy English version. It's probably not a really good version, but it says, if the Lord likes the way that man is going, he will give him help. Okay? We were meditating and thinking on different concepts this week. There are two wills. Okay? There are two desires that we see. We see the desire of Yah, that Yah has for man, and we see man's desire that man has for himself. Okay? And this is how Yah had kind of revealed it to us. Yah is going to use his people, the ones in which he delights, to do his will. Okay? And what I mean by that is to bring his plan to fruition. He is going to bring his plan to pass through his people. Okay? And we'll see that as we continue through this message. So, we have two desires, the will of man and the will of Yah. Okay? Yah has a will and Yah has a plan and man has a plan. And a lot of times they are different. So Yah's plan from the beginning was walk with me. That's the plan with Adam. Walk in this garden, I'll take care of you and everything's going to be okay. But Adam had a different plan. I'm going to do this instead. So man's plan conflicts with Yah's plan. But Yah is going to use his people to bring his plan to pass. Okay, and we'll see that through this message. So, Easy English was, if Yah likes the way that a man is going, he will give him help. The righteous man will be used to fulfill the purpose/plan of Yah. His way is established. That is kun, established. To be firm, it is stable, it is established. His way is directed by Yah. Okay? His way is directed aright by Yah. It is to prepare. His way has been made ready by Yah. It is arranged by Yah. Okay? Everything in your life, everything of the righteous man, the one that wants to reverence Yah, is arranged by Yah. We were thinking and meditating on the verse in Proverbs that by the fear of Yah and truth, a man turns from iniquity. No, it's the fear of Yah it's truth and mercy, a man turns from iniquity. So by the truth and mercy, a man turns from iniquity. So you got to have the truth and you got to have mercy in order for someone to turn. You can't just be all truth with no tenderness, and you can't just be all mercy with no truth, because no one's going to turn. Okay? If you're too hard on somebody, why does anybody want to hear that? If you're too tender on somebody, then you're an enabler. You will enable them to not turn. So that's how someone turns. But it all boils down to the respect of Yah. That is where wisdom begins. And if one person does not respect Yah or have reverence for Yah, they will not listen to Yah. Okay? And as we talked about last week, that all starts in the house. The honor, to honor your mother and father, when you start there, then it leads throughout your life. But it all boils back down to Yah. If you do not respect Yah, you will not listen to Yah. If you do not reverence him, there's no obedience there. That's why a fool says there is no God, because they don't want to reverence him. They don't want to obey him. So, kind of getting the understanding here, you have two desires, man's and Yah's, and then you have Yah fulfilling his plan through his people. Genesis 50. It is directed. It is directed. It is arranged. It is prepared. It is ready by Yah. Genesis 50 and 17. This is what you are to say to Yosef. I beg you, please forgive the transgressions of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. And now please forgive the transgression of the servants of Elohim, of your father. And Yosef wept when they spoke to him. And his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, see, we are your servants. And Yosef said to them, do not fear, for I am in the place of Elohim. Okay? I am where he has brought me. I am in the place of Elohim. Or that could either be that or a representative. I am in the place of Elohim. I am representing Yah. In other words, to forgive you for what you have done against me. And you intended evil against me, but Elohim intended it for good, in order to do it as it is this day, to keep great many people alive. Now, you think about Joseph and the beginning of his journey, where he was. Okay? I'm just going to go talk to my brothers. I'm going to tell them this and that. And they lift him up and they throw him into a hole. Okay? They sell their brother. He's wrongfully accused by Potiphar's wife. He's thrown in jail. He tries to get somebody to help him to get out. And when you think about the two dreams that he had, but like his life was just not wonderful. And through all of that process, what do you think is going through Joseph's mind? Why in the world? Why me? Why this? Why that? And then by the end of it, when Joseph is looking back, and he said, everything that you had thought was trouble to me and was evil to me, and he's looking hindsight, he sees 2020, it was for my good. I needed that. There are things in your life, there are things that have happened in my life that I could not have learned if I did not go through what I went through. And it was very particular and peculiar to me and nobody else. Now, there are things that you have probably learned yourself through my life. But nevertheless, there are things that I have learned. So, you think about that. You think about Joseph. At the very end of it, he's looking back and he says, that was for my good. That you have supposed it to be evil. That evil is bad, evil, unpleasant. It's misery. And I'm sure that he went through a lot of misery. Misery, unhappiness, hurtful. That was so unkind. Wicked deeds. You have put me in distress. This was wrong. It was adversity and affliction. What you had intended to do to me, to afflict me, to put me in distress. What was unkind? Yah had switched that around to be tob, good, pleasant, agreeable, valuable in estimation, happy, kind. It was for my benefit. And we'll see that whenever we get to Psalms. Because a lot of people might not know there's a reference in Psalms to what happened in Joseph's life. And Yah had made Joseph a promise somewhere along the line. And then he had to wait for that promise to come to be. You think about that, and even as Yah reveals it to us, it was the dream. It was the dream. Whenever he had the dream and he said, you're going to bow down to me. And he's waiting for that. But you know what? You got to go through the jail. You got to go through the pit. You got to be wrongfully accused. You got to go here. And you got to be put in what you would consider to be misery for your good. But at the very end of it, he said, man, I needed that. So, what we want to talk about today is what we would consider to be evil is actually for our good. Okay? When you look back and you see in hindsight, 2020, you are going to realize what Yah was doing with your life. And at the very end of your life, when you're looking back and reflecting, you will see everything that Yah has done for you. So, he said, you intended this to be misery or evil against me, but Elohim intended it for good, in order to do it as it is this day, to keep a great many people alive. So what they had tended, Yah used to preserve Israel. What a magnificent thing. And now, do not fear, I provide for you and your little ones. So he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. Even though you have done this to me, I'm going to do this to you. He just completely forgave them, but they were still afraid. They were still afraid. Yah used Joseph to fulfill his purpose in saving Israel. Yah had different plans. Psalms 105. We're going to read through all of this because what we see in Psalms 105 is some of the misery, some of the what we would consider to be evil that was placed upon Israel and how Yah had delivered them. Okay? But the specific verse we want to get to is verse 19, talking about Joseph. So Psalms 105 in the first verse. Give thanks to Yah, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the people. So how he has acted. Sing to him, sing praises to him. I'm going to say him because I've been thinking too much about Hebrew. Okay, sing to him. Okay, speak of all his wonders. Make your boast in his set-apart name. Let the hearts rejoice of those seeking Yah. Seek Yah and his strength. Seek his face always. So that's in the bad times, the good times. It don't matter. He's got a plan for it all. Seek him in that. Seek his face always. Remember his wonders, which he has done. If you are here, he's going to put you here. Remember his wonders. They were in Egypt, and it talks about that too. But how Yah used that to fulfill the promise that he had made to Abraham, and we'll get to that too. But anyway, remember his wonders, which he has done, his miracles and the right rulings of his mouth. O seed of Abraham, his servant, children of Jacob, his chosen ones. He is Yah our Elohim. His right rulings are in all the earth. So he is doing what is proper. He has remembered his covenant forever. The word he commanded for 1,000 generations that he made with Abraham and his oath to Yitzhak. So, and he established it to Jacob for a law, to Israel an everlasting covenant. So that's the progression of what happened. So I believe the laws were always there. He made a promise to Abraham, I'm going to do this and this and this for you. And then it went on to Yitzhak, and then he established it for a law to Yaakov, and he gave it to a covenant to Israel, as a covenant to Israel. So, and his covenant he remembers forever, saying to you, I give the land of Canaan, the portion of your inheritance, when they were few in number, few indeed, and sojourners in it. And they went about from one nation to another, from one reign to another people. He allowed no one to oppress them, and he reproved sovereigns for their sake. So, even when Abraham's thinking about going in here to Abimelech, and he's like, what am I going to do? He's going to take my wife and kill her, and he's going to ruin me and these people. And he did that twice, and Yah took care of him. Yah took care of him. He ruined sovereigns for him. He reproved sovereigns for their sakes. Do not touch my anointed ones, and do my Nevi'im no evil. He called for scarcity of food in the land. He cut off all the supply of bread. He sent ahead of them a man, Joseph, sold as a slave. Okay, so this is Israel dwelling in the land. You have all of Israel there, all the children of Israel. Then what happens? Scarcity of food. But what did he do? He already had a plan. I'm going to send Joseph into Egypt. And he used what the brothers had done to fulfill his purpose. But Joseph didn't understand it right away. But by the end of it, he fully understood it. So, scarcity of food. Y'all saw all this. Scarcity of food. He cut off the supply of bread. He sent ahead of them a man, Joseph, sold as a slave. They afflicted his feet with shackles. His neck was put in irons until the time that his word came. The word of Yah refined him. Until the promise came. So through that whole process, people often talk about Joseph. He was young. He was naive. And no wonder. I feel like through the teachings that I have seen, he was a tattletale. So what would happen? He would tell on his brothers. Why was he going to go talk to his brothers? Because he was probably going to go say something back to Jacob. Everybody knows that Israel, Jacob loved Joseph. Everybody knows that he was a special one to him. Do you know why, though? Do you know why? Because he loved his mother. You have Leah and Rachel. He loved Rachel. So no wonder he loved Joseph, because he loved Rachel, Rachel, however you would say that. That's why he loved Joseph. Okay, even though he had Judah as his, not Judah, but, Simeon, not Simeon, what was his name? Reuben. He had Reuben as his firstborn, but Joseph was the one he loved because he wanted Rachel in the very beginning. That's why. But anyway, so no wonder his brothers didn't like him, because they knew that Jacob favored Joseph. And I believe he was a tattletale. All of that comes back to this. He had some things he had to learn. Okay? He had to learn how to be humbled. He had to learn how to love his brothers. He had to learn that what they did was good for them, or good for him. So Yah made a promise to him that the stars of the heaven, the sun and the moon, they're going to bow down to you. And he was waiting for that word to come to pass. And until it did, he was tried. Verse 19 again. Until the time that his word came, the word of Yah refined him. The sovereign sent and released him. The ruler of the people let him loose. He made him master of his house and ruler over all his possessions, to bind his chiefs at his pleasure, and to teach his elders wisdom. Then Yisrael came to Mitzrayim, and Yaakov sojourned in the land of Ham. And he increased his people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies. He turned their heart to hate his people. So this is all in his purpose, okay? Yah uses Joseph to bring Jacob and the children into Egypt, okay? And he brought them there as a breeding ground, okay? He brought them there to multiply them. Although they were slaves in Egypt, and what they had went through, they had some things they had to learn. What it was like to be that way. Yah used what was done there in his purpose. He used it to multiply Israel. Notice, Yaakov sojourned in the land of Ham, and he increased his people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies. And that was true. There were so many. Pharaoh was afraid. What happens if they all gang up on us and start multiplying? Or they already multiplied, but what happens if they turn on us? What happens? Let's kill their firstborn. So he tried to make a plan. And we did that message about mental oppression. They were mentally oppressed. They were more in number, but they were so depressed that they could not come together. Even though there was more than the armies of Egypt there, they could not come together in order to fight. Because they were just in a depressed mental state. So what did it take? It took Moses. It took Yah bringing Moses. It took Yah bringing Aharon, or Moshe, whichever one you want to say, Aharon, Aaron, to help the people get some strength. And if you notice at the very end of it, as Yah inspires us, it said they came out with a strong hand. They came out with confidence. But before that, what were they saying? Who had made you ruler and judge over us? They were in a depressed state. Mental slavery is where they were. So much to the point they could not come together. They were just, that's what they did all day. They did exactly what the Pharaoh told them to do. They couldn't think outside of where they were. He increased his people, verse 24, greatly and made them stronger than their enemies. He turned their heart to hate his people, to conspire against his servants. He sent Moshe, his servant, Aharon, whom he had chosen. They put among them the matters of his signs. So this is our God, this is our Elohim, this is our Yah, and he is going to crush all your mighty ones. Okay? Let me present him to you. And what does Pharaoh say? Who is he? Who is he that I should serve him? Let me show you who he is. Okay? They put signs among them, the matters of his signs, and wonders in the land of Ham. He sent darkness and made it dark, and they did not rebel against his word. He turned their waters into blood and killed their fish. Their land teemed with frogs. In the rooms of their sovereigns he spoke, and swarms of flies came. Gnats in all their borders. He gave them hail for rain and flaming fire in their land. He smote their vines and their fig trees and broke the trees of their borders. While we're thinking about this, and he inspires us to speak, you think about Pharaoh. No matter if Pharaoh said, yes, you can go, or I'm keeping you here, Yah was going to do his plan. Okay, he was going to fulfill his plan. But now we have somebody whose heart is hardened, and Yah said, I'm going to use you too. I'm going to use you to show my might and my power to all the nations. So you want to harden your heart? I'm going to use you. You just do that. But by the end of it, Pharaoh, you're going to see who I am. All things serve his purpose. All things. He uses even the ones who don't want to obey to fulfill his purpose. You want to be that way? I'm going to show you who I am. Verse 33, and he smote their vines and their fig trees and broke the trees of their borders. He spoke, and locusts came, and larvae innumerable. And they devoured all the plants in their land, and they devoured the fruit of their ground. And he smote all the firstborn in their land, the first fruit of all their strength, and brought them out with silver and gold, and among his tribes no one faltered. Mitzrayim was glad when they left. I've never seen that part. See ya. Bye-bye. Here's my stuff. Bye. Bye. Don't come back again. See ya. Bye. Glad you left. Okay. For the fear of them had fallen upon them. And it's not even the fear of them. It's the fear of who is with them. And it's so great. The fear of them had fallen upon them. He spread a cloud for a covering and fire to give light in the night. They asked, and he brought quail and satisfied them with bread of the Shemaim. So even in the purpose of the wilderness, we see what you had considered to be evil, I considered it to be good. Why are we out here with no bread? Why are we out here with no water? Did you bring us out here to die? We had stuff while we were back there. And if you watch the Ten Commandments, Dathan. If you've ever seen the Ten Commandments, Dathan. That's all I gotta say. But anyway, if you've never seen it, then you'll know what I'm talking about, if you ever watch it. So, but he said, I brought you out here. What was his purpose? And we talked about that before. To prove you, to test you, to see what was in your heart, whether you love me or not. Are you in it for the long haul, or are you just here for the benefits? Do you just want to get to the land, or are you really going to serve me with all of your heart? And that's the bottom line. And there's a part in this that we talk about, trust. Trust. If you lack trust in a relationship, the relationship will not work. Trust is one of the foundations of a relationship. And if you do not trust, your relationship is going to fail. So, what Yah did is that everything had a purpose. Okay? They asked, and he brought quail and satisfied them with bread of the Shamayim. He opened the rock, and water gushed out. It ran in the dry places a river. For he remembered his set-apart word to Abraham his servant. So he brought out his people with joy, his chosen ones with singing, and he gave to them the lands of the nations. And they inherited the labor of the peoples in order that they may guard his laws. That's what it sums up to. He remembers his covenant. He remembers what he has promised. And they inherited the labor of the peoples in order that they may guard his laws and watch over his Torah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So all of what we would consider, man, that's some hard times. Yah was in it, using it. Using it. So the whole thing, until the time that his word came, verse 19, to pass, the word of Jehovah tried him. So the promise of this is what's going to happen, and your brothers, your father and your mother are going to bow down to you. Until the time his word came, the LEB, about the word of Yah tested him. Genesis 15. So as we had said before, what Yah had done for Israel in Egypt, he served his purpose in that. Genesis 15 and 1. And after these events, the word of Yah came to Abram in a vision, saying, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward is exceedingly great. And Abram, said, Master Yahuwah, or Yah, what would you give me, seeing I go childless? And the heir of my house is Eleazar of Damascus. So I don't have a child. Where's the promise? This isn't even of Sarah. You promised that me and Sarah would have a kid. So now I have Eleazar of Damascus. And Abram said, see, you have given me no seed, and see, one born in my house is my heir. And see, the word of Yah came to him, saying, this one is not your heir, but he who comes from your own body is your heir. And he brought him outside and said, look now toward the Shamayim and count the stars, if you are able to count them. And he said to him, so are your seed. Now, in accordance with what is said here, I believe that Abraham started counting. And the reason I say that, because the next verse it says, he believed in Yah, and he reckoned it to him for righteousness. So believing is not just, I believe what you're saying. Believing is obedience. And Yah said, count the stars if you can, and I believe he started counting. So, he believed in Yah, and he reckoned it to him for righteousness, and he said to him, I am Yah who brought you out of the Ur-Kasdim to give you this land to inherit it. And he said, Master Yah, whereby do I know that I possess it? And he said to him, bring me a 3-year-old heifer, and a 3-year-old female goat, and a 3-year-old ram, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. All clean sacrifices. Okay? And he took all of these to him, and cut them in the middle, and placed each half opposite to the other, and he did not cut the birds. So, first off, you're realizing, I don't even think Ishmael is here. All he's talking about is Eleazar. So Ishmael's not here. Yaakov is not here. Or Yitzhak, sorry, not Yaakov. Yitzhak is not here. And now he's saying, you're going to give me this kingdom. You're going to give me a seed. You're going to multiply me. How do I know? And he took these and to him and cut them in the middle and placed each half opposite the other. The reason I said that's going to make sense here in a minute. But he did not cut the birds, and the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, and Abram drove them away. And it came to be when the sun was going down and a deep sleep fell upon Abram, that see, a frightening great darkness fell upon him. So that is a reverence, that is a great frightening darkness. Like, I got to get out of here, I'm scared. And he said to Abram, know for certain that your seed are to be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Now, I want you to understand that this is not just the time that was spent in Egypt for Israel, okay? I want you to understand that time. This is all the way from Yitzhak to the end, okay? That was 400 years. They were not in Egypt that long, okay? So this is all the span of time between Isaac, your seed, okay, and when Israel came out, and it was fulfilled, okay? I want you to understand that. So, and they shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But the nation whom they serve I am going to judge, and afterward let them come out with great possessions. So, even before it happened, that's why I said it was important what I was telling you before. No Ishmael, no Yitzhak, only Eleazar. And now he's saying, I'm going to bring them all into a land, I'm going to multiply them there. And then I'm going to bring them out with a mighty hand. So he had already told Abraham what his plan was. So, but the nation whom they serve I am going to judge, and afterward let them come out with great possessions. Now as for you, you are going to go to your fathers in peace, and you are to be buried in a good old age. So he'd already promised. Like I said, I believe he tried to count the stars. Though the bondage was sore, it was evil, Yah taught Israel in the bondage of himself. That's what he did. Okay, while they were there, who is Yah? They were probably asking the same question. The great one of our forefathers, where is he at? We are in bondage. So he had to teach Israel of himself. And there were some that doubted in the beginning. Like I said, who are you, Moses, to be a judge and a ruler over us? They were doubtful. They did not believe. Okay? So Egypt learned, Pharaoh learned who Yah was, but it was for Israel. For Israel to learn who Yah was. Okay? Notice it said that they will serve. They shall serve them. They shall serve them. Does that mean that there were mighty ones that they were serving in there? Serve them. Okay? So, Yah taught Israel of himself and fulfilled the promise he made to Abraham. Yah harbored Israel in Egypt to multiply them. Psalms 105:24. That's what we just read. He harbored them there to multiply them. We must go through certain troubles in our lives. If we were going to have we were kind of debating on two different titles for the message. We thought of calling it In Order, because this has to happen before this can happen. Okay? But ultimately, the title of the message is The End. Because in the end, you are going to completely understand why. We must go through certain troubles in our lives in order to learn specific lessons to us. Okay, specific lessons. Like I said before, I could not have learned some of the things that I know now unless I had went through the things that I've been through. Specific lessons. Numbers 24. Numbers 24 and 1, if you want to get an even greater blessing of what is happening here, read Numbers 23. Because Balak and Balaam had already tried to curse Israel twice before this. Okay? Twice. And what they had intended to be a curse, Yah turned into a blessing. So, Numbers 24 and 1, and when Balaam saw that it pleased Yah to Barak Israel, he did not go as at other times to seek to use sorcery, but he put his face toward the wilderness. And Balaam filled up his eyes and saw Israel encamped according to their tribes, and the Ruach of Elohim came upon him. So he saw it, filled up his eyes, lifted up his eyes, lifted up his eyes and saw Israel encamped according to their tribes, and the Ruach of Elohim came upon him. And he took up his proverb and said, the saying of Balaam, son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes are opened, the saying of him who hears the words of El, who sees the vision of El Shaddai, who falls down with eyes opened wide, how good are your tents, O Yaakov, your dwellings, O Yisrael. Let rivers that stretch out like gardens by a river, like aloes planted by Yah, like cedars beside water. He makes water flow from his buckets, and his seed is in many waters. His sovereign is higher than Agag, and his reign is exalted. El, who brought him out of Mitzrayim, is for them like the horns of a wild ox. He devours nations, his enemies, and he breaks their bones. He strikes through with arrows. He bowed down, he laid down like a lion, and like a lion who would rouse him. Baruch is he who Barak you, and cursed is he who curses you, which is the promise made to Abraham. Then the displeasure of Balak burned against Balaam, and he struck his hands together. Balak then said to Balaam, I summoned you to curse my enemies, and see, you have kept on Barakah, blessing them these 3 times. So, what they had intended for evil or a curse, Yah used it for good. Okay? What is intended for evil, Yah turns into a blessing. At the end of Joseph's life, he saw the good. Okay? So, you have blessed them these 3 times, and now flee to your place. I said, I would greatly esteem you, and see, Yah has kept you back from esteem. So he said, I'm going to give you this, and I'm going to give you that, if you would do this for me. And he said, I was going to lift you up, but now, not no more. So, if Balak should give me his house filled with silver and gold, I am unable to go beyond the word of Yah, to do either good or evil of my own heart. What Yah speaks, that I speak. And now see, I am going to my people. Come, let me advise you what this people is going to do to your people in the latter days. So let me tell you what's going to happen to you. Okay? And he took up his proverb and said, the saying of Balaam, son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes are open. So Yah has inspired him. The saying of him who hears the words of El, and knows the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of El Shaddai, who falls down with eyes open wide. I see him, but not now. I observe him, but not near. A star shall come out of Yaakov, and the scepter shall rise of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and shall destroy all the sons of Sheth. And Edom shall be a possession, and Seir shall be a possession. Enemies, and Israel is doing mightily. And a ruler shall come from Yaakov, and destroy the remnant of Ar. He then looked on Amalek, and he took up his proverb and said, Amalek was first among the nations, but his latter end is to perish forever. And he then looked on the Canaanites, and he took up his proverb and said, firm is your dwelling place, and your nest is placed in the rock, but Chaim is to be burned. Till when does Ashurah keep you captive? And he took up his proverb and said, oh, who lives when El does this? Oh, who lives when El does this? And ships shall come from the coast of Kittim, and they shall afflict Ashurah, and afflict Eber, and so shall Amalek, and he also perishes. And Balaam arose and left and returned to his place, and Balak also went his way. So, what is already prophesied shall come to pass. So, Yah is going to give them their promised land. Jeremiah 23. And he is going to destroy our enemies. Jeremiah 23 and 16. Thus said Yah of hosts, do not listen to the words of the Nevi'im who prophesy to you. They lead you astray. They speak a vision of their own heart, not from the mouth of Yah. We have talked about this numerous times, about anyone who wants to teach you contrary to Torah, anyone who wants to teach you against Israel. Don't listen to them. Okay? If anybody wants to teach you that it's okay to sin and we're under grace and don't worry about that, it's all covered and you don't have to worry about this and the blood does this, he said, don't listen to them, because that's what they say here. No judgment shall come upon us. Verse 16 again. Thus said Yah of hosts, do not listen to the words of the Nevi'im who prophesy to you. They lead you astray. They speak a vision of their own heart, not from the mouth of Yah. They keep on saying to those who despise me, Yah has said, you shall have peace. And to all who walk according to the stubbornness of their own heart, no evil comes upon you. So there's no judgment for your wrong. That's on somebody else. Sounds familiar. Okay? Don't be deceived by them. For who has stood in my counsel, or in the counsel of Yah, and who has seen and heard his word, who has listened to his word and obeyed it? See, a storm of Yah shall go forth in a rage and a whirling storm. It whirls on the head of the wicked. The displeasure of Yah shall not turn back until he has done and established the purposes of his heart. In the latter days you shall understand it perfectly. The ones who Yah is going to destroy are the wicked, the perverse. But he is going to preserve his people. And notice what it says. I did not send these Nevi'im, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel, then they would have let my people hear my words, and they would have turned from their evil way and from the evil of their deeds. Judgment is coming. Okay? Yah is going to judge the earth. And we had talked about that, the revelation that Yah is going to put the plagues on our enemies, and he is going to take us out with a great hand. And we won't even remember what happened in Egypt. We're going to be talking about this. So, but at the end of that, you're going to completely understand. If only they would have turned from their evil. If only they would have repented. ULT says, in the final days, you will understand it. The Web says, in the later days, you will understand it perfectly. Hindsight is 20/20. I see situations in my life that I questioned at the time, but looking back now, I can see perfectly what Yah was doing with me. Certain things have to happen in our lives in order for us to learn, say it again, specific lessons. Okay? They're specific to us. Psalms 139, and we'll close out. And just even as he reveals that to us, as we think about Israel and Egypt, they had to find out who Yah was too. Psalms 139. And verse 7, Psalms 139 and verse 7. Where would I go from your ruach? Or where would I flee from your face? If I go up into the Shamayim, you are there. If I make my bed in the grave sea, you are there. I take the wings of the morning. I dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea. There too, your hand would lead me. Everywhere you go. The steps of a man are ordered by Yah. He is going to use his people to fulfill his purpose and plan. And then, like I said, I was going to give you examples. Joseph. He used Joseph to fulfill his purpose and plan. And he's going to do the same thing with his people. He hasn't stopped. He's going to continue to do that. Continuing on. There too your hand would lead me, and your right hand hold me. If I say darkness shall cover me, then night would be light to me. Even darkness is not dark for you, but night shines as the day. So even when we are in a dark time, Yah understands. He completely sees it, just as if it was light. He knows. So what we need to do, and I think that it says that, for you possess my kidneys and cover my mother's womb. I give thanks to you, for I am awesomely and wonderfully made. Wondrous are your works, and my being knows it well. You have to be able to see Yah in all things. You have to be able to seek him in all things. And when you are in those hard times, or when you are in those good times, you have to be able to search for his face. And we've also talked about that too. What does that mean to seek his face? You want to see what kind of expression he has. Is he pleased with you? Is he sad? What kind of expression does he have? That is what that means, to seek his face. Are you pleased with what I am doing? So, even in dark times, it's light to him. He knows and he understands. He completely sees what's going on. He completely understands your need. And he can fulfill it. He can do it. He knows. So he completely understands. You must trust him with your life. The end. No, I'm just kidding. In the end, you will completely understand. In the end. Yah is good. Baruch Hashem. Everybody have a blessed Sabbath.